back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
Money, money, money. Must be funny in the rich man's world.
Welcome back to our program here on Boomer Life. We're talking about, well, solutions to debt problems. Our guest in studio is a trustee in bankruptcy. His name is Brett Luckin. Brett is with Abakhan and Associates, trustees in bankruptcy with 5 offices across British Columbia. Hasn't always been the case. We had George here, your boss, a few weeks ago, and he said there was just 1, and now there are 5.
Now there are 5.
3 here in the Lower Mainland in Victoria, well, okay, across the pond in Victoria, and a couple here in Vancouver area in Surrey, and then downtown, and then you spend a lot of your time up country in Vernon.
I spend a lot of time in the Okanagan as well.
Okay, and then there's another one even further north in Prince George.
In Prince George, correct.
Okay,
yeah.
And all of this is simply because the business warrants the growth of Abakhan and Associates. It's kind of a good news, bad news thing, isn't it?
Yes, we're a growing company. We're doing nicely. Thank you very much. And I think it's not what I prefer to see it as. We're not doing well because people are doing badly. We're doing well because we are helping people who in a particular place in their lives and bringing some kind of hope and resolution to the issues they're having.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, because you've mentioned a few times already in this conversation, you know, if only these people had come to me or my colleagues a year or 2 or possibly even sooner than that, we would have been able to sit down, take a look at the balance sheet, and set up some kind of program whereby they wouldn't be in the difficulty they're in now. And those warning signs to those people were ignored. Let's throw a couple more warning signs onto the table here, Brett, and see if people respond to that. One of which, the United States government has indicated it's likely it's going to start increasing interest rates in the first quarter of next year. That's only a few short months away. If their rates go up, ours will too.
Yes.
And also we're looking at declining house properties, not here in Vancouver, but in Victoria, yes. In Kelowna, yes. In the entire maritime provinces, yes. There are only 3 robust, to use a real estate word, markets left in Canada: Toronto, Calgary, and Vancouver. Everywhere else, property values have either leveled off or started to decline, and all of the banks are predicting a correction. This is not, we're not fabricating or fear-mongering on this program, friends. Quite the opposite. We're simply trying to reflect the information that's out there back towards you in such a way as you may be able to benefit from the information and plan accordingly.
Yes, I mean, one of the things maybe that people can look at is that for instance, interest rates at an all-time low right now. You renegotiate your mortgage in the last few months, and you potentially would have got somewhere between 2.3 and 3%.
Right.
And now that clocks over 2, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on your term. In 5 years, it's highly unlikely you're going to be able to come anywhere near that.
That's right.
So the question you have to ask yourself is if your mortgage payment suddenly 3 or 4 years from now hopped by $300 or $400 a month as a result of the mortgage rate increases that have happened in the interim. Could you afford it? Do you have that kind of flexibility in your budget?
And most of us would say, well, of course, that's, I've just renewed for 5 years, so from 5 years from now, I'm bound to be making more money. I'm good at my job, so relax, take a breath.
Unfortunately, that often doesn't happen. Unfortunately, you don't earn as much as you thought. And in fact, keep in mind, it's not only your mortgage that went up. It's also your repayments to your credit cards, because the interest rate would have moved there as well. Your retail cards would have moved there as well. Yeah, the general living expenses would have moved up as well. And of course, as you get older, your kids, the empty nester becomes the not so empty nester anymore. And so
or at very least the bank of mom and dad.
The bank of mom and dad.
That's right.
Yes. So the reality is that it is not a wise decision to simply make the assumption that there will be extra cash 3 years from now or 4 years from now. And so that's the kind of decisions that when you're making a decision today, you should not just be thinking about whether or not you'll be able to afford it today. You should be thinking further ahead.
One of the major banks, and I think it was the Bank of Montreal, but one of the big 5, published yet another survey on cash flow in Canada quite recently. This is just in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And the point was made, we carried it on our news. Simone had it on the morning show here on CL 650. If in many far too disturbingly high number of Canadian households, Brett, if a paycheck were to be 1 week late, those households would be crimped financially. They would be in trouble. That's pretty amazing. That's a pretty fragile population, isn't it?
Yes, I remember hearing, in fact, at some stage in the radio, not so long in the last few months, because this is obviously a topic of major interest to people, is how many of us have the ability to live if our paycheck did not arrive at the end of a given month.
Right.
And the reality is far too few of us have, let's say, a month or 2 months or 3 months in the bank. Not enough of us are able to do that.
Right.
You know, a very practical example is that the teacher strike that's just ended now more recently, almost immediately, I know trustees in bankruptcy throughout BC saw an increase in the number of teachers who came to come see them.
Really?
And the obvious happened. A couple of them, I had experience with a few of them, where they filed proposals in July and August. And of course, when they didn't go back to work in September, they then had to file a bankruptcy, which effectively avoids the proposal.
Oh.
But that's because they realized that by not being able, they were basically in a position where they're unable to make the payments that they promised in their consumer proposal.
Right.
So they were forced to go bankrupt. So there's a very practical implication of just a couple of months of no income almost immediately results in a group of people, presumably far more than just the ones we dealt with. They have found maybe other solutions to their debt, but a number of them were coming through our front door looking for advice.
Interesting. And that also, by the way, is an instructive sentence, because I was going to ask you, because we do have these two options that a trustee can help you with, either the consumer proposal or a bankruptcy.
Yes.
And I never did ask you, what happens if you file a consumer proposal with all the best intentions in the world of repaying all of your creditors, albeit at a reduced rate,
Yes.
and then you find yourself in another financial pickle, and you are unable to honor those repayment obligations that you committed to in the proposal? Then what happens?
Then you are in a position where bankruptcy is your only alternative. And there's, you know, that happens. It wouldn't be the first time.
So is that imposed upon you if you're unable to honor the proposal?
No. What will happen is your proposal itself will default because you can't make your payments.
Right, right.
You're not forced to go bankrupt. I mean, that is still a choice you make. But at a practical level, the moment that your proposal defaults, there is something known as a stay of proceedings. And that stay of proceedings, which exists in a proposal, is when your creditors are not allowed, your unsecured creditors are not allowed to take any kind of legal action, enforcement action, like garnishing of wages or bank accounts. And that stay of proceedings is lifted when your proposal defaults. So the phone calls will start again.
Okay.
The legal action will start again. And if you can't make a proposal work, then the only way you're going to stop those phone calls and that legal action now is, of course, then to go bankrupt.
Okay. Well, it's interesting, though, and instructive to know that there are consequences to filing a consumer proposal. It's not like, oh, it's a get-out-of-debt-free card kind of thing
it's
at all.
It's a 5-year commitment.
Exactly. Yeah.
You are committing to make your repayments, albeit for less than you would have normally. Yes.
Do most people treat a consumer proposal seriously, or do some just sort of go, oh, well, this is an easy little out, didn't expect to be able to take this, see ya?
By far, the people that I deal with take it very seriously. I mean, obviously, the fact that they've had to come through a front door of a trustee in bankruptcy indicates they already take their financial situation very seriously.
Right.
We have a very low, what I'd refer to as delinquency rate of proposals at default.
Yeah, I was being somewhat flippant, but,
Yes.
you know, you have to ask these questions because without them, you don't get the answer.
You know, there's the occasional, but they're always going to be. There's the occasional person who sort of treats it like a little bit of a joke.
Right.
But that's not, by far, people take it very seriously and are very upset if they are forced to file a bankruptcy as a result of their proposal not working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our guest from Abakhan and Associates, trustees in bankruptcy here in Vancouver at 625 Howe Street, is Brett Luckin. And by the way, you can find out a lot more about his firm, Abakhan and Associates. While we take a quick break, you might want to pop over to the computer and pull up Abakhan.com. It's ABAKHAN.com. You'll be surprised at what you can learn in 2 minutes while we do this.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.